What's going on, everybody? This is Randall Barnes, the founder of HBCU Pulse and the host of HBCU Pulse Radio, in the building for another special edition of the show on today. We're like, what? It's the 19th with 6 days till Christmas. Christmas is my birthday, turning 29. I feel better. I had an off day today, surprisingly, just from everything. I'm playing 2K. I'm losing. Don't worry about it. Anyway, I got Arielle in the building. Arielle, how you doing today?
I am definitely on the opposite side of you. Not sick though, but it's been a day. It's Friday and I'm off tomorrow. So I finally get an open weekend. So that actually makes me happy. And Merry Christmas and happy early birthday, even though you're going to receive a call and text from me. Are you excited?
I'll be honest with you. It just, I don't know what it is for adults and for men. It's just, it feels like March. It feels like it feels like March. Like it literally does. It feels like a colder version of March. It don't feel like, oh my gosh, my birthday is coming. Like what? I'm gonna get my like 10 happy birthdays on Instagram. You gonna text me like, but it's like, all right, get the days off, watching basketball. Back to it. That's Saturday because I work on Saturday. So
you work on Saturdays?
Because the game, like I'm covering the game. So yeah,
but HBCU football is over.
Well, it is over, but I got to cover HBC basketball and then also NBA. The WNBA might be on a strike, so that might be a thing.
Oh, wow.
I might cover that. Then college football with the college football playoffs. So yeah, and I got to get Arielle. I got to get every red cent. Okay, so I can't just be like, well, it's the new year. Learn that can't happen. Got to get every red cent, Arielle, because if I don't, I won't. So yeah.
Only thing about adulting, it never changes every year. Just they want more from you, but hopefully you do get a break and you'll have some good games. We get into we're in bowl season. We're about to be in championship season. We're finally picking our Sweet 16. I'm excited.
Yeah, and let's get to this very interesting game with the Celebration Bowl. It was honestly. I don't say this lightly, Arielle, and I know we both love HBCU football, but this is one of the best sporting events I've seen in my life. Like 4 overtimes, 21-point comeback, Chennis Berry wins, but just high level coaching from both sides. So I'm super excited to talk about it, and we deserve this. Okay, the HBCU community deserves this. From guess what? Because my voice is back. The 2 Division II coaches, Division II. Oh, y'all play a Division II school. Oh, this team's not really good. Y'all play Morehouse. Y'all played Albany State. Guess what? 2 Division II coaches gave y'all the best Celebration Bowl ever. Arielle, how did you feel about it?
I'm not even going to lie to you. A&T aside and non-biased aside, that was literally the best Celebration Bowl I've seen. I've been to 2. I think I've been to 2 or 3, but outside of the years when they first started and in some of the glory years, 4 overtimes, an almost blowout into the third quarter, missed field goals, flags, quarterback change in the middle of the game. And you can't get more interesting than that. And then the press conference, which I know we're going to talk about later, interesting words coming from Coach Chennis Berry, and I'm on the opposite of you, maybe on this one, on how you feel. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. But man, can he play a game? I think we were going to save it for next, but that Celebration Bowl, Randall, I can literally go back and I can rewatch it. How thrilling and interesting, especially how this season went with HBCU football. We did have some really great games. And it was interesting to see what we were going to do with 2 new celebrity coaches. I think we had 5 or 6 new HBCU head coaches. So of course, it was going to be, and we had some stories to play off of FAMU's storyline, even though it didn't turn out great. We're talking about Bethune-Cookman's storyline, that just a Cinderella storyline that we never knew of. DeSean Jackson, even though he did not make it, what a wonderful first season. Michael Vick, Chennis Berry, Trey Oliver. I think we all had some good games, and there are some mediocre games, but I can't agree. I don't know how you're going to top next year's Celebration Bowl. You might just have to bring them back and see if they could do it again.
Yeah, I mean, just in general, like the lead up to it was so amazing because I think you're right. Just you had Alabama State versus Jackson State, and we thought that was for the Celebration Bowl. Then Alabama State versus Prairie View. Andrew Body gets injured in that game. And then you have North Carolina Central, South Carolina State. Then you have Delaware State versus South Carolina State. South Carolina State versus Morgan State. Because you remember, I said that I feel like Morgan State figured something out with Delaware State's run defense. The games when we finally got into conference play were so great that I think that the Celebration Bowl was the perfect culmination of it. And just looking at the game itself, right? There's so many ways I want to go with it. I'll say this first, right? Because I had a whole entire, I made a whole entire like list of notes that I wanted to rally off. I'm tossing that to the side. We're just gonna talk, okay? So and hopefully I might look at it if I can't recall certain portions of what I'm saying. So a lot of people, they look at sports through narratives, and I understand that because narratives is how we break down life. Like we look at the facts, we then decipher it, and then we come up with our opinions, and our opinions essentially are narratives that we're spinning, and then you can sort of have dueling narratives. But I think that oftentimes people's narratives are based on faulty evidence. And the evidence that Chennis Berry is a quote unquote regular season coach, the evidence that Chennis Berry is a postseason loser, respectfully, is just not true. And I think that a lot of the evidence, and I've said this before, but a lot of the evidence that people were using to prove that was misguided, because I just don't understand how we can look at 2022 Benedict College and 2023 Benedict College and then penalize Chennis Berry for being so good in the regular season that he gets a bye. I just think that's ridiculous. Whereas, like, well, he hasn't won a postseason game. He's played in up to on last Saturday 3, and then he lost to Jackson State. So my thing is that he's 0-3. People act like he was in 10 postseason games, and they're like, oh, he's a choker. Like and I'm like, I don't understand the basis of it, because everything has context. But what I will say is that when he was down 21-0. I was like, boy, Chennis Berry, I know you follow me on Twitter. I can't do nothing for you, man. Like I've fought this valiant fight, and people actually watch us and listen to us. So it's like people actually care. I fought this fight, man. I don't know what more I can do, man. You got like the offense was horrible. Like Cam Peters, like he was playing the game of his life. Like, oh my gosh, like the runs, the passes, the play calling, 21-0. I was sitting back and I'm like, man, I don't know. I really do not know, Chennis Berry, what I can do, because I can't stop he's a playoff dropper. He doesn't win in the postseason if you lose in this way. But that second half, and Arielle, I always say this. I was reading an article I wrote about the NBA Finals, and I said that sports is about moments. I always say that. And that moment, and I'm not saying anything different from any of the other shows, any of the other people, but that double reverse, that was a fumble, changed everything. That changed history. Because first and foremost, why are you doing that? Like, why are you playing just so loosey-goosey? Why are you getting cute? Like, be conservative, run the ball. Like you have the lead. Like, you're probably gonna get the ball down the field, at least get a field goal. Why are you doing a double reverse? This ain't the All-Star game. This ain't the Legacy Bowl. Like, what are we doing? And then literally the next play, 5-yard touchdown drive by Tyler Smith. Just one play, boom, he runs it in. They scored 21 unanswered points. Billy Atkins was injured. They saw the gash on his hand. You bring in Ryan Stubblefield. And like, Ryan Stubblefield is not really a traditional backup quarterback. We've talked about it before. He has reps. And he came in there, played the game of his life, and South Carolina State completely turned it around, because a part of me was wondering, like, what is Chennis Berry going to say in the locker room? We know he's very motivational. But what can you say when you're down 21-0 and Prairie View is clicking on offense and defense? And that defense was powering everything, because Cam Peters was going crazy. But I think that Cam Peters going crazy is one thing, but the defense literally not allowing South Carolina State to flip the field is a whole other thing.
Do you think it would have been possible Because to me, when I'm watching this game and I'm watching a Chennis Berry 21-0 down, he's a great coach. I'm not taking that away from him. He deserves every accolade to be remembered, statue and all. Like, this man is finna go and win championships for South Carolina State like it's nobody's business, and he might move on, he might not. But seeing that display and seeing where you were last year, do you think 21-0 halftime Chennis Berry without that fumble recovery really could have won this game without Prairie View? Because I don't think he could have.
I think so.
Really?
Yeah, I totally think so. Because I think that was a momentum changer. And I think because like what we know is that after the game was over and everything like that, and South Carolina State folks, they have their podcast, they go on other podcasts. I believe it was the Chaplain. It was on Brick City podcast. That's the South Carolina State podcast with Kobe. And I think the Chaplain was in there. And he said that Chennis Berry told them, do you believe? Like, just keep believing. And then I think that when we look at that within the narrative, within the story, then we see that fumble by Prairie View. The South Carolina State recovers and then one play touchdown. I think that was them saying, yo, I still believe. So I think that did help. But I have faith that Ryan Stubblefield was going to play better than Billy Atkins, and that offense was going to pick it up. Because Prairie View didn't have nobody, like, they have nobody to play. They was scrimmaging to a certain point. Like literally, like the pass yards was like 16 at halftime. So I mean, I think they would have came back. I just really do.
There's nothing bad about Chennis Berry. Let me just start there. There's nothing bad about him, and I love that in this game he found a way to win. He found a way to do it in the most fashionable way possible. Because I think Chennis Berry, even though as great as a coach as he is, and as humane as he tries to be, I think he does like to show off in a sense. And what better way to do that in Chennis Berry by winning it after 4 overtimes? I think he loves the lore. I do think Chennis Berry loves the story. He doesn't love the spotlight so much as we can see. Like, he keeps it professional and he keeps his glory to God. But if he can do it dramatically, Chennis Berry is going to do it dramatically. And I think this game was dramatic. But to my point, I think, to me, this comes to question the validity of South Carolina State Bulldogs as a football team, not necessarily as a coach. Just personally, because going off of the Celebration Bowl last year that they were in with Jackson State, losing that 25-7, not that 28-7, not able to recover after that, their opponent again going on the scoreboard first, blowing them out first, and then having to come trail behind. We'll take those coach jitters. We'll take those first-year nerves. Coming back and doing it again, knowing that these last 4 games, especially the 3 that were very, very important, when you played Howard, where you played North Carolina Central, and where you played Delaware State, where you had won by a touchdown or more. You come into the Celebration Bowl repeating what you did last year, going down 21-0, then having a pivotal moment of that fumble in the third quarter, coming back with 21 points, beating them with a 7-yard touchdown pass to win 40-38, and then come back and ask people to validate you in some kind of way. I get it. You have it technically, factually. You just won your Celebration Bowl. You did in a historic fashion, and now you have a wing as a second-year coach on a team that has one of the best defenses that I have ever seen, and someone that had to rebuild after almost losing over 50% of your players from 2024. But to me, on the other side, morally, I don't see a good case as to, is this South Carolina State team really that good? They struggled throughout the whole season. You win in high fashion your last 3 games. You come and you struggle this game. You barely make it out alive. And now I'm supposed to tell you that you're one of the greatest teams. You have one of the greatest coaches, but you're always coming from behind. That doesn't sit right with me. The game was great. The team is cool. The coach is phenomenal. I'm not changing that. But what I will say is, after this win, I'm not so sold on who South Carolina State is as an identity and if they can do this again. Because if we're looking as outsiders, if we're really detailing in, this season was scary. And despite having this win, I think he needed this win. He needed it to show people that D2 coaches, like how you've been saying, can coach, and most of them that have come in their first season have done phenomenal jobs. At Alabama A&M, we're talking about Alabama State, we're talking about Jackson State, we're talking about people that have played all over. We're talking about DeSean, we're talking about everybody. That's fine. That's cool. You needed that, but I'm not sold on what this team has brought. Most phenomenal game that I have ever watched. Do I think South Carolina State can do it again? Do I think Chennis Berry's job is in trouble? No. Do I think the validity of his coaching and his team are? Of course. I can't sit here and say this makes me not think about how next year is going to go or makes me think about who he is with his team. It scares me.
So I actually very much so disagree.
And that's okay.
And I'm going to tell you why. So I look at the season differently after we get to the MEAC play. So we know that, of course, they won all of their games in the MEAC. And then they had a really competitive game against North Carolina Central and also Morgan State as well. The Charleston Southern game was what had me scared. And the first game against Wofford, when it was 16-15, I was nervous because of the fact that we knew that this was a different team. And we knew that there was a huge expectation. But when they got to MEAC play and they're stomping everybody that isn't North Carolina Central, surprisingly Morgan State, and then somewhat Delaware State, although Delaware State did get soundly beaten, like South Carolina State was valid to me. And I think that, to me, it is the grind of a champion, because sometimes you just come in and you're just better than everybody. But you have to build up to that moment and you have to instill that culture. And for him to have brought in 44 new players and to essentially go back to where he was when you bring over your Benedict guys, you have a few Buddy Pugh holdovers, and there are some real big transfers. And then you're back to where you were when you had all those players, plus Eric Phoenix, plus Caden High, and you're back where you were. I think that shows a lot about South Carolina State as a program, their recruiting pipelines, and of course, Chennis Berry as a coach. And I look at the 21-0 differently because I look at it as a testament to coaching. Because I think that the game in general was a love letter to coaching, because they go down 21-0 largely because their offense was non-existent, because Billy Atkins, before he got the gash on his hand, as you said, he's a pocket passer. So when they were bringing that pressure, they were doing the different exotic stuff on defense. Billy Atkins couldn't really run away from it because he plants his feet in the ground and tries to diagnose your defense. Ryan Stubblefield can sort of do both, not at the same level of Cam Peters, but he can sort of do both. He has a really good arm. So when you bring in Ryan Stubblefield, that's the adjustment. And you saw South Carolina State doing different things. So I think it's more so a testament to, hey, we learned from the Jackson State game when we went down by this astronomical amount. We learned, and now we're not dictating the pace, because we know that South Carolina State, they dictate the pace. They go up 21-0. They had that 14 points in 15 seconds against against the Eagles. So my whole entire thing is like, I think that South Carolina State, to me, they further validated themselves as a program that gave the South Carolina State faithful hope that Chennis Berry is the guy. And I have no evidence in my mind that they're not going to run it back again. The only thing that gives me, I wonder, is what's DeSean Jackson going to do? Is Michael Vick's recruiting going to get better? Because that's the only thing that I can think of. But I have more faith in South Carolina State, because Chennis Berry proved that I can coach, I can make adjustments, and also I can build a culture when y'all think I'm number one, but secretly I got a whole different team, but we went the same place that we did when I was number one the year before.
I think you have a point to where, yeah, we don't know like all the hypotheticals that could happen next year. What is DeSean Jackson going to do when he inevitably loses his quarterback, because he's a senior this year, and he loses partially half of his defense? What are we going to do if Central really locks in and Trey Oliver is like, you know what, I'm coming for them? What happens if God Almighty allows Morgan State to actually be good next year. Or, you know what? Let's maybe we run it back all the way. I don't know. I'm not saying that he's not a great coach and the team did the impossible, but the underdog story is pretty old. They've been playing it for the past 2 years. The only reason it applies to Chennis Berry is because he's a new coach. But the team gets new players every year. And the players that have come and the players that he did recruit for this year, it was okay. I'm not going to say it's mediocre because all of them showed up in times that needed to happen. But a lot of we both said it, they're not the same team. They look scary in the beginning. They look dominant towards the end. But when I'm seeing repeat performances, when I'm seeing stuff that hasn't been learned, I'm looking at the details, not the overall kind of face value that people may be looking at. He won an incredible game. But if we look at what really happened, if we look at what happened on the sidelines and what was breaking down within this team, despite the injury that Willie Atkins had, which he could have still played a phenomenal game. But if we go to that point, with him being in there, I don't know if they necessarily would have won with the way that he plays. And I think it was smart. Whether he meant to get hurt or not, that you change quarterbacks that match the intensity that Cam Peters had brought out on that field. I think he probably would have done that anyway, regardless if Willie Atkins was hurt or not. I think he needed somebody that was going to match Cam Peters, and I'm glad that he found that in his backup. But the underdog story, to me, I can't keep letting you come from behind. I can't keep letting you try to build up momentum. For South Carolina State and Chennis Berry, it has to be now or never next year. We're either going to be dominant the whole season and maybe have 1 or 2 games that slip us, or we're just going to play behind and see where it gets us, because that's what they were doing. They were doing that the whole season, playing from behind, waiting from week to week to figure out if we're really about what we are about. I get it. Maybe it does take you the whole season to believe. And sometimes it does for us in real life. That's cool. But next year, with the way that the MEAC is growing in players and in coaches and experience and intelligence and how everybody is coming with their skills, I don't think he can afford to be the underdog coach anymore. I need to see some kind of tenacity outside of him. We all know that Chennis Berry has it, but some tenacity in his team that we are going to be one way or another. We're not going to climb this year unless some people have to climb. Sometimes you just have bad recruiting, but I don't want to see him climb. He's past that. I don't want to see him come from behind. He's past that. You have proven to us by going to a Celebration Bowl twice, only winning 1, that you are a coach that can be competed with. I shouldn't see games like this anymore. I'm congratulating you because you deserve it. You deserve the fantastic game that you put on for us, but I'm tired of seeing you from behind. I'm tired of seeing you trying to prove to other teams what we already know and what we already been saying, that you're a great coach, whether you win or lose. I just need you to do it there and to the point, not always having to be like, okay, guys, let's dig us out of this hole and let's see what happens. And if we win, great. If not, I know who I am. Chennis Berry can't just be great by himself. It's the team. And with him now solidified to the public, to us, we know, but him solidified as the public, that he is one of the greatest coaches that we have ever seen, that has brought over in South Carolina State, made a great move. I need to see that in their team next year, because I'm not fascinated. I'm impressed, but I'm not fascinated with this underdog story.
So before we move on, I want to do this because I'm taking a social media fast. Like I'm actually trying to, and I didn't tell you this, I'm actually trying to not be on social media until the new year. It's going to be a lot. Yeah, I'm trying, because when I tell you, when they were talking about the Knicks not raising the NBA Cup banner, and people was like arguing with me about, that was my final straw. That was my Vin origin story. Okay, I was like, it was more that led this point. I was like, yo, I can't do it no more. But I do look at the YouTube comments and like the podcast comments and stuff, and I would be remiss not to defend this from the South Carolina State side just for them. Okay, I'm doing this for them, and I feel the same way, but I'm doing this for them. Okay, so
you feel how they feel.
Yes. And what I'm gonna say, I feel how I believe and I perceive that they would feel if they even watch this video at all. Okay, because they might not. I don't know. It's Christmas too. I'm like, come on, they might not watch this video. But like, I'm very honest. I'm very honest. But like, I think that when it comes to the flow of the game, a lot of people will argue that the only thing that matters is the result. And I think for them, from what I heard from other shows, like Scotty, like when folks were there, a lot of South Carolina State fans were like, "Is Chennis Berry a regular season coach?" I wasn't there, and in my mind when I was hearing that, I'm like, that's wild to me. But they looked at it similarly to the way that you looked at it, because they're like, well, when Buddy Pugh goes in these games, he wins these big games, right? And my thing is, what is the big game? Because yes, the Celebration Bowl is a huge game, but he's beaten North Carolina Central twice. He beat both the celebrity coaches. He withstood the comeback from Morgan State. He beats Howard. He wins a close game against Wofford that really shouldn't have been that close. I'll give you that one. It should not have been that close. But they looked pretty good against South Carolina as a new team. I think that Chennis Berry is not necessarily being an underdog. I think that he's subverting expectations on both fronts. I think that he subverted the expectation last year of he was just D2. He might not be able to adjust. He's bringing all these Benedict players. They might not be as good as, say, North Carolina Central. Maybe this is North Carolina Central's year. And he subverted that expectation. But then he subverts the expectation of this is the top team. When we look at it, and this is a team that was totally reconstructed. You lose your quarterback, you lose your starting wide receiver, you lose 4 of your 5 offensive linemen, you lose all these defensive players, all these key defensive players. So that number one team, you base that off of what happened last year as far as the MEAC. They based off what happened last year. So I have to then subvert the expectation that this team actually should be like, what, they should be 7-5. This team should be at home watching Celebration Bowl with us. But they, once again, they subverted the expectation and in the same sense live up to it of being number one, but they've subverted it because, to be honest, they should be the team that we're describing them as. They should be the team that can't compete. They should be the team that got dog walked by North Carolina Central, who had more continuity. They should be the team that DeSean Jackson and Delaware State ran through with the top FCS, the top rushing offense in FCS. They should be that team, because 44 new players, how do you install culture? Do you know if these guys are even good? Billy Atkins was the third string quarterback with James Madison. They good, but he was third string. Was he third string for a reason? And they went and they did it. I think that for me, it was him subverting both of those expectations. And then from there, building a winner and building a culture in such a way where when you're down 21-0, it's, do you believe that we can do this? And do you believe not just that we can do it? Because I think that oftentimes, especially as Black folks, we look at things religiously and we look at things from a simplistic nature when it comes to football. And I'm talking about in general. Because I heard it from a religious context of, do you believe? Like, do you have this belief when you're going through the fire, right? And it's almost like a testament to life. But at the same time, do you believe in the sense that, how I look at it, do you believe in our game plan? Do you believe that as the coach, I am going to put you in the right position to win this game? And I think that's a two-founded belief that was combined together, the belief spiritually, but also the belief in the game plan and the level of trust in the players in that locker room and your coaches, offensive coordinator, defense coordinator, special teams coordinator, everybody, that we can do this and that we have the talent to do this. And to me, that is the testament to what Chennis Berry's career has been, as we both know, we've talked about it, but also a testament to what this team in the Chennis Berry era is going to be. So I don't know if that's how South Carolina State fans would describe it, but that's how I look at it.
I think I would take, as if I was a South Carolina State fan and just a listener, I would take what you said, because it makes perfect sense. But one, all right, first of all, who is your co-host if I can't come against you? You know, I love putting it in the hot seat, but also Two, if you were to tell me, because I feel like this whole conversation, we haven't, and I haven't acknowledged how great Prairie View has played. But if you were to tell me the team that amounted up to 21 first downs, over 436 passing yards, just under the 9-minute mark of possession of the games, one turnover, less penalties than the other ones. We all know that Prairie View doesn't really rush because that's not how they really play. They're mostly a passing offense, and they throw it out. We saw Cam Peters do it. He had an exceptional game, and he played marvelously. And I hope if anybody does listen to Prairie View's eye, we love them. And it was tragic how they lost, but it was great how they played, and they ran South Carolina State for their money. But if you were to tell me what I just told you, and even what it showed you, that a team that literally did half that, South Carolina State only put up 279 and put up one of the lowest, actually it's one of their third lowest rushing yards throughout the whole game. I think their lowest one was against Jackson State. Not Jackson State. I think it was what's it called? Delaware State. For them to do that and let them come back in 4 overtimes, I don't know necessarily to say if Prairie View dropped the ball or if the win was just in South Carolina State's favor. And to your point, I get it because I've said it before. A win is a win. How you get it, a win is a win. But I don't know if I could just take that from South Carolina State, believing in the game plan, which I know Chennis Berry is never going to lead his team into any kind of danger or into mishap on purpose, believing that there is a higher purpose to what you guys are going through, that you struggled in the beginning of the season because you didn't know what your team was really good at, whether it was defensive or it was offensive, or if it was running, or if it was special teams, which I think they did great on special teams, even in this game. You never know what your team is going to do, but for your team to be okay in the beginning and then come to the Celebration Bowl and do that, and with a team that was obviously better in every single way and still mount to the win, yeah, cool. I will disagree. I do agree with you. He's not a bad regular season coach. I think he can. The regular season stuff happens, and with that, I don't think you can really count it as a MEAC coach because we don't have a playoff season. We don't do what the SWAC does. So I don't think to that point their question is really valid because we don't have a technical factual base that we know how they do post regular season besides the Celebration Bowl. But I think this would be the end of it has to be the end for me, reiterating, of his build-up era of who he is or who he is by himself. Because I even did it. Chennis Berry is not the team. He is the coach of the team, and your team has to match the skills and the intensity of you. I just personally think, looking at the game, very, very favored in their eyes to win the 4 overtime. I don't want to see it ever again. I pray and hope the best for his offseason because I know he's going to come with some heat because now you got to do it with these other coaches. And speaking of other coaches, while we hope to transition soon into segment 2, I think you're going to have to continue to be segments. This doesn't end. You're going to have to beat segmentations of, okay, he was a D2 coach his first year. Okay, he was an underdog his second year. He finally won it. Okay, he's going against celebrity coaches. How is he going to do? There's always going to be a stigma against him. And I'm going to bring that stigma like how I did today. You don't get rid of the stigma when you decide to chipper about not getting attention or to chipper about, I'm a D2 coach with a championship now. What do you guys have to say? Or you don't get to chipper about, I did it with a team that did it in 4 overtimes with a team that wasn't my team in 2024. You don't, as much as we want to, and as much as we are analysts, you don't get to run away from the stigma. There's always going to be something to live up to. But I think the stigma that I am challenging him to live up to is valid. What are you like when you're not down 21-0 or 7-0 in a game that really matters? What do you look like when you dominate throughout the whole game? That's in postseason, not regular season, against an opponent that you already know that you play every single year, that you twice sometimes, that you know, okay, I can come back and I can do it. What do you like when you're just the best? What do you like when you embody or when you kind of look like North Carolina Central from 2023? What do you look like when you look like Jackson State from 2021? What do you look like when you look like Prairie View from 2014? This was a 2014 Prairie View team. This is old school Prairie View that almost whooped up on Chennis Berry. I want to see that. I don't want to see this anymore.
I feel that. And I think that this is a perfect time to transition into the second segment, because I think you were giving me previews of how you feel about what he said in the post game. And I want to say this, right? I want to say this because I have so much to say about this, but for the sake of time, I would like to, before we get started, we're going to talk about what Chennis Berry said about, he didn't say Michael Vick, DeSean Jackson's name, but he alluded to them as the two NFL guys. If you want to hear my full thoughts, I want you to read, and I'm going to pull it up on my phone to make sure I'm getting my own article correct, because if you go to clutchpoints.com a year from now, you will not see this article because it's going to be so many other articles. Oh my gosh. So it's like, you're not going to, and it better be, because if it's not, I'll be unemployed.
All right. Y'all, my secret to these podcasts is Randall. He is my cheat sheet when I just sometimes need some more information, guys. It's really good. His stuff is really good.
I appreciate that. So the article is called, you can Google it, Why Chennis Berry Was Right About DeSean Jackson, Michael Vick Media Coverage. I'm sorry I didn't tease it in the title. I agree with him, but in a very different way. And I will give, after Arielle gives her take when we play the video, I will give sort of a summation of what I was saying. But so Chennis Berry wins the Celebration Bowl 4 overtime, 40-38. So the clip you're going to see is when he first sits down and he has his hat, has the championship, the players beside him. And well, I think it was when he first sat down, but essentially he sort of had some things to get off his chest. And he specifically was talking about the MEAC Coaches Calls, which are seen on YouTube. HBCU Game Day puts them up, but also the MEAC Digital Network puts them up. So if you want to see what he's talking about, you can go look that up on YouTube. But this was the clip. We're going to play it right now.
Receipts now. So all through the season, we had those conference calls. Nobody wasn't asking me any questions. It was always directed to the two NFL guys. And I'll sit there and get 1 or 2 questions. And they get 20 or 30. So I'm going to say that. There's good football coaches that come through HBCU. We can coach because we had to get it out the mud. So I'm going to say that with a proud chest. There's a lot of really, really good football coaches. And again, I got great relationships with all of them, but I keep receipts, and that motivated me. Every day I go to my staff meeting, I say, hey, guess they didn't have a whole lot for me. Dr. Cavill always asks me a question. That's my guy. All right, but it's like 1 or 2, but everybody else want to talk about everything else. So we just fell in love with the process, and that motivates you, man. When somebody tell you no, when God be for you, man, who can be against you?
Okay, we're going to go ahead and release the players so they can go celebrate. Coach Berry, we're going to keep it.
They don't want to leave me. Yeah. They love me. These my boys. Go celebrate, boy. Congratulations, man.
Arielle, what did you think about his comments?
2 things. I always smile when I watch that video because it's just like the love between a coach and his players is always fun to see, especially after like a big win, like we finally did it. So that watching that again always warms my heart. Also, and I guess it would be the 4 years that we have been doing HBCU posts. You ain't never fade in and fade out a video on me. I thought that was fancy. I said, oh, he really played the video. I said, oh my gosh, we upgraded. I said, I love that. That was great. So I had to get that out. I was like, oh, Randall fancy. That's
well, okay. I just want to say, like, we use StreamYard. I could have always done it. I just like I've done it in like interviews and stuff at some points, but number one, it sometimes it's a lot of work. I just feel like hopping on talking and getting off. But also, it's like we needed the context, and like I didn't want to imitate Chennis Berry's voice, and I feel like you needed to hear him because I could try 1-0, baby, 1-0, like I could do it. I don't like we can want to know God may God be the glory. Like I can, you know,
You're almost there. I'm not gonna lie. You're really a little more rasp. I think you got it because that man is a strong talker. I mean that in the most sincerest, loving way ever. I love the way he talks. To my points, I just had to get those out. When I kept listening to it, I kept having the same reaction, and I'm just a little. I won't say disappointed, and I'm not going to say upset. I would just say taken aback because he has a point that when celebrity coaches come in, those with high accolades of the most that have been coming to HBCUs that are former football NFL players, they do get a lot of attention, especially Michael Vick, who had one of the most disappointing seasons that we ever seen. I don't think it's more embarrassing than having Deion Sanders go to the Celebration Bowl twice and lose twice. But it's pretty scary to want to have all this attention on a coach that only won one game. That's crazy. He has a point for that because there were a lot of good coaches that came into the space or in their second year or have been there for 10 years and are rocking the HBCU world, and nobody has questions. But as soon as we get a celebrity, everybody has all these opinions. Everybody wants to question them. Everybody wants to be close friends. Nobody is worried about the other team that may just have a regular person who really knows football. And not saying that Chennis Berry is a regular person, but just for the sake of the conversation, he's just a regular guy who knows really good football. He didn't play professional football. That's not part of his criteria, that's not his background, and that's okay. So in that sense, I do agree with him. And how he presented it and how he said it, that's where I kind of lost me, because I don't know Chennis Berry not to be a humble person. And so that's where I kind of saw the light, where I was just like, oh, okay. And we all have that too. He's a very calm and very true person. But if he has the time, Chennis Berry is going to let you know how he really feels, and he's going to be a little petty about it. And just knowing how we've been covering him, just how we've been seeing him and what we've been watching from the press conference, I've never seen a petty Chennis Berry. I've never seen like a nitpicky Chennis Berry. Not saying he didn't deserve to point out that fact, but it didn't sit right with me that, oh, they only asked me 2 questions and they'd be asking, Delaware State and Norfolk State, their coaches, all these other questions. True. But now that you have won this championship, and it goes back to my point, you're finna get the same thing. You're finna get the same heat that they were getting. You're going to, not in the same light essence, because of course they come from a different background, but you're finna be put, oh, can he still be great? Can he repeat the same season that he did last season? Since you want all this attention now because you feel like it wasn't shown upon you, which I said in a light is true, I just think there was another way to deliver that. And I don't think he should be upset or back away from the attention that he has now put on himself outside of the Celebration Bowl. But in that press conference, y'all start talking to us. And I think it will put more pressure on the journalists to talk to maybe Sam Shade or to talk to all these other new coaches in a different light. But I think you have to be careful with what you ask for with anybody. And as he is a man-fearing guy, you got to be careful what you ask, because once you get it, you can't back down from because that's the thing about being a celebrity. When you become a celebrity, privacy is over. What people should, like, humility is out the window. What you think, how people should treat you, how they should ask you, how they should not be in your business, that's out the way. And if that's what you want, cool. I think in a certain sense, I think his comments had a double narrative, like how he had a double narrative, like, do you believe and do you believe? I think the narrative was, yes, you need to shine a light on people that aren't celebrities, but also those celebrities were trash and they didn't beat me. So how do y'all look because y'all didn't cover me? I get the 2 things. And the first one, yeah, say that. Cover these coaches. Cover them and these coaches that didn't play football. But also on the other side, DeSean Jackson, he got media, but he didn't get media because he was overridden by Michael Vick. And he had a spectacular season. he deserves that media. And I think if you feel some type of way, take it with the person that they really shouldn't have covered and tank the whole season. Don't take it to a person who, if they really could have, might beat your number next year. It's sloppy, but it's also like it needed to be addressed. I just have mixed reviews on his press conference post game.
I think it makes sense what you said 1,000%. I didn't see it as necessarily petty. So let me get sort of the shorter aspect of it out the way. So I didn't see it as petty. I think that he had the right to say that because to the winner goes the spoils. And also I think that it makes it interesting when it's MEAC Media Day and, now it's going to be those conversations. And then also when we have the lead up to the Delaware State, South Carolina State game next year, and also the Norfolk State, South Carolina State game. I also believe that a lot of people were like, well, the reason why you don't get these questions is because you're not compelling. And I don't think that Chennis Berry, I think the last thing Chennis Berry is not compelling. Because I think for me is like, yeah, he's really religious. Yeah, he does the parables, you're killing that with a sledgehammer, go 1-0. And they even joked about doing MEAC Media Day on the ESPN broadcast. But he gives you stuff when you ask him stuff. And who is really giving for real info or what they call now tea on anything? Let's be for DeSean was the only one doing that. Come on, DeSean Jackson won man, I'm so much better than Trey Oliver. And Michael Vick definitely. Michael Vick was boring. What are you talking about? Michael Vick was boring. Let's be for Michael Vick is not Michael Vick. His play was what really was electrifying. Michael Vick's not a talker like that. So when people are like, well, Chennis Berry's boring. No, he's not. And then how do they know? Well, we didn't see no press conferences at Benedict. What the world? They weren't doing the SIAC weekly coaches call. We don't do that. So what personality did they see? You know what I'm saying? Outside of let's watch his coaches show and watch his coaches show, by the way. His coaches show is amazing. When they get the film, they break down the game. And whoever's at South Carolina say, if anybody's watching this, y'all need to tell Chennis Berry to do the coaches show for the Celebration Bowl. Listen, I need that because they be breaking it down and he be talking on air. Okay, so the coaches show, get that going. But here's the thing where I took it to another level in my agreement. Because what he's talking about is the people that are on the MEAC Coaches Call, which is why he shouted out Dr. Cavill, who does inside the HBCU Sports Lab, great podcast, and he's an amazing man, and he does a lot of great stuff, right? But I took it bigger than that because of the microcosm of the past 5 years of celebrity coaches, which is why, because I'm not going to get fully to what I want to say. So that's why I say, listen, go to why Chennis Berry was right about DeSean Jackson, Michael Vick media coverage. It's a whole entire, I believe, 1,600 word article. Go read it. But Arielle, and I'm going to work through this with you, Arielle, because I had something very personal happen to me around South Carolina State that I utilized for this, how I looked at it. So when the de facto MEAC Championship game ended, I was watching the game. And I went to write an article for Clutch Points, and I looked at the box score. And DeSean Jackson, his Delaware State Hornets, had 500 yards of offense. And we know that they weren't that proficient. We know that they weren't that proficient of a passing team. So they got most of their yards, 400 plus yards, on the ground, which I think was phenomenal. And you don't see that every day, especially in a loss. And I thought that was a very interesting thing to spotlight. I also know that my audience with HBCU Pulse on Instagram, they've been really fired up about Michael Vick and DeSean Jackson because of the fact, and I didn't say this in the article, that we have a lot of people that follow HBCU Pulse that could care less about sports. Everybody don't like sports. There's a lot of people that don't like sports, but they like the stories around sports. So that was a story of he lost the game, but got over 500 yards. And I knew that people wanted to see DeSean Jackson. So I already had the plan to put up a post about Chennis Berry, but I put that one up first. But I also have a responsibility with Clutch Points and the fact that we are a part of the Clutch Points network, that when it comes to HBCU post social media, we got to have social media post up and they got to look a certain way. And they looking for a certain amount of impressions, not in like no bully type of way, but in like an expectation. So I'm like, man, let me put this one up first. And then I'm gonna post Chennis Berry. I got something really cool for Chennis Berry. And a lot of people didn't like that from South Carolina State. They felt as if like, why are you posting the loser? Like y'all glaze these celebrities and all the different stuff. Like why y'all post South Carolina State Chennis Berry? And then they made an indictment of, well, HBCU posts always post North Carolina A&T and this and that. And that's been a narrative that has persisted since we've grown. And it was a person that I met, and I'm going to say it. I'm not going to say the name, but I'm going to say where I met the person. Because I've already put it out there enough. I met her at NASAP, the National Association of Student Affairs Professionals Student Leadership Institute. I'm a different type of person, Arielle. You know that from me from the past 4 years. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I'm not Greek, so I do not stroll. And I don't dance. You probably don't know that. I don't dance. So I just sort of like, when I was in school, I mean, like, I would, cover stuff on social media. I sort of sit back, crack jokes, talk or whatever. And also, I'm not the guy like, hey, what's up, Ma? What's your name? That's also not me. So it's like, when I'm at the function, I'm like, I'm just sort of there, watch people stroll. So I was also doing HBCU posts at that time. So it was a little bit hard to connect with people in a really authentic way because they didn't see necessarily Randall. They saw the guy that runs HBCU posts, put my school on, or hey, let's do this. Let me do this takeover. Because we were doing story takeovers at that time. So I talked to this person and I sort of say, man, like, I'm not connecting with people. I don't like that. Like, because I thought that what NASAP was supposed to be is with this collective of student leaders. And I thought I'm going to meet somebody that I can connect with, I can bond when I'm about to graduate. I didn't think I'd be able to go here. And this person sympathized with me. And they were like, yeah, man, I'm feeling the same way. Because everybody trying to turn up, they trying to drink, they trying to whoop. And I'm like, man, I really appreciate that. And then when we start talking about Pulse, I say, man, listen, like, I want Pulse to be a representative of schools like Fort Valley, like Albany State, like Benedict, like Bennett, like all these different schools. And I told that person that, and that was where I was in 2019. But in the summer of 2019, I changed the creed to telling the true, authentic stories of HBCU life. Because I believe that true, authentic stories are not just at Fort Valley or at Albany State. They're at Morehouse and Spelman. They're at North Carolina A&T. They're at FAMU and Howard. So why would I limit myself when I want to cover all HBCUs? And a lot of people didn't like that. And I found out that this person, who I have not spoken to since 2019, didn't like that and said a lot of very interesting things in the comments. And Arielle, they hurt. They hurt a lot. Because number one, I'm not spoken to this person. And I'm thinking, if you feel away, like let's chat about it. I'll explain to you why I have changed in 6 years and why my business has changed in 6 years, especially the fact that we're part of the Clutch Points Network and there's a different motivation for us to perform. It's not a hobby. But it really made me think about my place within media, Arielle. And I go more into it in the article. But we're in this capitalistic system of digital media where you have to perform. You have to make this stuff work. And to be honest with you, the HBCU audience, I love it, but it's not a lot of people. It's not. Go look at HBCU Pulse Instagram and go look at Clutch Points and tell me the difference. You're going to see a lot of hit posts on Pulse, but look at the variance of the 13,000, 14,000, 50,000 likes on Clutch Points because they're covering general sports that has a larger audience. There's a larger audience of NBA fans. There's a larger audience of NFL fans. There is an audience for HBCU culture, but there's sub niches within that because HBCUs are a sub niche. So there's not a lot of people that's like, oh yeah, Andrew Body, oh yeah, Davius Richard, oh yeah, come on, A&T. Like there's people that like that love HBCU sports, but that might not always get 10,000 likes. So now I gotta be like, okay, well, what would my audience like? how can I spin this to make them care that Chennis Berry is 28-0 in conference play the past 4 years, which I did that post. Even after that, well, Randall, I talked to Randall. He said, whoop, whoop. And what Chennis Berry said brought me back to that because, number one, that was a South Carolina State criticism. And another thing, too, and I want to ask you this, Arielle, and I'm asking this not really as a rhetorical question, but I want you to tell me if I'm lying. Have I not been one of the biggest supporters of Chennis Berry on this show the past 4 years? Have I not been?
When we did the new coaches for it was 2023, right? When he first came in for 2023, that was your number one excited. My number one excited was Sam Shade, which I still am excited for him to complete the season, even though we didn't. We'll get to that later. But you were like, that was your guy because this was a transition of a lot of D2 coaches that were coming into that D1 space, North Carolina A&T included. We had a coach that went D1 to go D2 to learn what he needed to learn, the nitty gritty, because that's where you learn how to actually play football in D2 before you come to D1 or go back to D1. He was your number one. So, yeah, you always supported him.
And that's the part that's frustrating because it's like people don't see what we do here. And when I tell you, it is so frustrating, Arielle, and this is totally going on the show because I said it in the article, I said it in my personal story to like 50 people because no one watches my personal story, and I'm gonna put it here. I'm gonna put it on the podcast feed. Nobody cares about none that we do. The Sirius XM show, the YouTube show, they only care about Instagram for some reason. I don't know why, and we got to get better on TikTok, and we will, but I don't know why. YouTube, we got people sometimes. But like Instagram is where we reach the most people. But a lot of those folks on Instagram, the young alumni when I was in school, and like my brother's folks that are in school with him now, they don't know we do this show. They don't know the podcast. They don't know none of that. And it frustrates me because people lump Pulse in this box of it's just an Instagram page when we literally are not. And it frustrates me because if that person had the context that literally we talk about Chennis Berry in South Carolina State all the time. On Twitter, my personal Twitter, I literally said, man, I think South Carolina State is making it back to the Celebration Bowl. And someone from Morgan State was like, no, he's not. I'm like, come on, Morgan State. But like, you know, I'm like, I literally was like, he's making the Celebration Bowl again. Like, I literally have been rooting for Chennis Berry since Benedict. And I'm like, oh, he always posts these other schools. They never post South Carolina State. And it just gets frustrating because of the expectation. Number one is the fact that you can't say how real you are because other people are going to do it for you, especially black folks. But also on the flip side is that they don't see the totality of this. They don't see us for some reason. And I accept that they never will. I accept they won't. I accept that the people on Instagram are not going to see this. I accept that the person I'm talking about, I'm not talking even erroneously about them, they're probably not going to see this unless Mike tells them. If they know who I'm talking about, which maybe they won't. But like, it's frustrating. But it makes me think about the fact that we're in this system where we have to perform. And since DeSean got here, we've adhered to celebrities. And I feel Chennis Berry in such a way, and I even feel the criticism that I received, although I feel it's unwarranted, because we do focus a lot on celebrities. Because we're trying to get people to care. We're trying to get that person in your friend group, man or woman, that don't really rock with HBCU football there because they can't play, they can't coach. Oh, wait, that's Michael Vick. Let me tune in to HBCU Post Radio. Let me share this graphic. Michael Vick's the coach of Norfolk State. That's what we're trying to do. Because if we just are posting about the quote-unquote regular coaches that I think the world of, people aren't going to like it unless I put the spin that Chennis Berry is 28-0. Everybody's not 28-0 in conference play between two conferences in the past 4 seasons. So I can't do that for everybody. I can do it for Tremaine Jackson, who was in the Division II championship and went to the HBCU national championship. That got 8,000 likes, more than the Chennis Berry one for the folks that he only posts A&T. He only posts Howard. He only posts FAMU. Posted Tremaine Jackson. They got more than the DeSean Jackson post. They got 5,000, which I think is very interesting. But that's what we have to do. And the thing about it is that, Arielle, last thing, and I know I went long, but we're chasing a Deion Sanders effect that's never coming back. DeSean is one person. DeSean is akin to Michael Jordan, but more personality than Michael Jordan ever had. Michael Jordan wasn't talking like DeSean. Michael Jordan wasn't wearing chains like DeSean and Jerry curls and all the different stuff like DeSean, calling himself prime time. Michael Jordan was historically dry. He was historically neutral on politics, on cultural issues. People liked how he played. That's why Michael Jordan is deified. That's why people wear the shoes. It's because of how he played. DeSean's the one talking. And when he was the coach, DeSean was the one talking. That's why Ed Robinson said, I'm swag, you not swag. That ain't never coming back. And here's how I know. I know because Michael Vick is a coach at Norfolk State, which is his home state school. He don't live that far from Norfolk State. And nobody cared even when he was losing. There was some coverage. Yeah, it was. But on the media front, I see the numbers. People were like, oh, let me go read this story. I had an article on Clutch Points, and I'm going to wrap up, but I had an article on Clutch Points, Arielle, about the fight between Fort Valley and Central State. I was there, and I covered it, and I saw what happened, and I saw the lead up, and I reported the facts. When folks are saying, "Oh, this hazing investigation, no, they fighting. This is such a bad school," I cleared that up real quick. That was the #1 post for multiple weeks on Clutch Points, on the Clutch Points HBCU section. That was the #1 post until it was unseated, I believe, by a story about Southern. That was the #1 post going into like Halloween on Fort Valley and Central State. How many people talk about Fort Valley and Central State over like Michael Vick and DeSean Jackson? Not a lot of people. So when I saw that, I'm like, man, these Deion Sanders numbers are not coming back, man. And I think a lot of us are really trying to make it a thing, especially in the articles, but everywhere. And the thing about it is that DeSean Jackson, nor Michael Vick, nor Marshall Faulk, nor anybody else opposite maybe Ray Lewis or maybe Ed Reed is going to be as polarizing as Deion was. Then what type of polarization are you getting? Because is Ed Reed going to say your campus is dirty? That's polarizing. But Deion didn't necessarily say that. So it's like, my thing is, I agree with Chennis Berry because he's talking about the guys in the conference, but I'm looking at his comments as an analysis of what he sees as a coach of the media ecosystem. Because there ain't a lot of folks sitting up talking for hours about how great Chennis Berry is, how he needs to step up and improve. It's only so many people. But people talk a lot about Michael Vick and DeSean Jackson in certain spaces, but it's like people don't even care. So overall, and like I said, I know I said a lot, sorry, but like I wrote more about it. I went more into it in my article. But that's why I think he's telling the truth. Because of my personal experience and also the fact that being in this space, he's totally right. And we got to do better. As far as like me and all the other platforms, we got to do better in covering Tremaine Jackson, TC Taylor, and him. We got to cover everybody. We got to cover Michael Vick, DeSean Jackson, but also cover other people too. You know, so that's how I looked at it.
I think you kind of gave kind of the answer to the question, just because I never said he was wrong, and I never said what he said wasn't untrue. He's right. Yeah, of course, we pay more attention to our celebrity coaches. Yes, he does deserve recognition because he just did the impossible. Really, honestly, did 4 overtimes. Are you kidding me? I would be tired. I want to go home. Let's wrap it up. There's other stuff that we got to do in this Mercedes-Benz Stadium. But it's also like, now that you got that off your chest, what are you going to do about it? Because us as journalists, as you just explained, it's not you. It's just what's going to get us paid, what's going to get us numbers. And those are the celebrities. And then also, who are we not to cover them in their first season? Who are we not to say anything about what they're doing, how they're doing it? Like, we have to say something. And I don't believe and I think this was more of it was a personal shot to the people that were in the room. Because you sit with these MEAC coaches, you sit with these HBCU coaches every day. And outside of the one person that Chennis Berry decided to call out, all of you guys are guilty of putting more media attention on the people that didn't even make it here. And that's valid. On an outer spectrum note, it's not going to hit us journalists like that, especially me. Just because in your point, cool, you got that off your chest. But as you admitted, as a media person, they made my numbers. They pay my salary. You not boring. you're just not what people want. And that's truth. And to me, that's where I go to a point. It's like, okay, you said that kind of sassy, kind of spicy like, but you said that, but what's going to change? Everybody besides, I think the realest comment was, I'm swag, you not swag. That was one of the, because it is. Deion Sanders showed a persona that I think we could say that he just came in thinking I was one of the greatest players, that lived, and he is. And I'm just going to come in and just do a new thing. I'm going to be Deion, I'm going to coach the team, and I'm going to make it fantastic. And to some extent, he did kind of demean the other coaches that were in his conference and kind of hurt some of the things about HBCU culture. The new coaches that came in didn't do that, but they're celebrities. They're new. I have to cover them. And I bet half of those articles were just regular covering. DeSean Jackson now on a four-game winning streak. What do you want me to do? Do you not want me to report that? I'm sorry. I'll ask you 4 questions now, Chennis Berry, since the 2 that I gave you were not enough. You know what? Let's make it 6. Let's do that, because we can't take too long on what you have to decide. But then it goes also back to my point. All right, now you shine a light on this. Now you have embarrassed every journalist in that room that has been on the press conference called media. Also goes to your point, it's up to us to change, because Michael Vick is still coming back, and that's the storyline. Is he going to only win 1 game next year? DeSean Jackson is coming back. Can he do a repeat like Chennis Berry? There might be more coaching changes ahead, because 2024 rocked our world. It's not that we don't want to cover him. It's just, like you said, this is just what my audience wants. And you tried it. You tried to be true. You tried to be like, you know what? I'm going to give everybody their flowers. I'm going to do what you want me to do. Because initially I started as a D2 guy. Then I said, you know what? Let me expand just outside of the celebrities. You tried it. And it's not saying it didn't get you nowhere. It just didn't get you where it used to be in 2020, in 2021, now 2025 with these new coaches. And that's not our fault. I think if the narrative wants to change, it's up to the journalists and the new coaches, especially celebrity coaches, that get into the new space. Because as a journalist, just being unbiased, I'm going to get journalism about numbers. What's going to give me numbers? Michael Vick and DeSean Jackson. I will get numbers after the Celebration Bowl, because congratulations to a phenomenal win and a great game that you put on a performance, and everybody's going to have the writing career life of the year. But what are you going to do that's going to keep me interested? And what was the point of you saying it? That's just me. Not saying he wasn't wrong. He's not wrong. Everybody deserves the spotlight. And just HBCU period deserves the spotlight. He deserves the spotlight. Other coaches deserve the spotlight. But what are you going to help me with to change that algorithm to give you the spotlight? Appreciate you calling me out, but I still got to see you 2026 press conference. So, like, my bad, boy. I'll just ask you 6 more questions. My bad. That's what I'm getting. You're absolutely right. And I loved your story and almost brought me to tears. I just can't. I don't see the upside. I don't see because it takes us, but it's not going to change, especially if the 2 celebrity coaches come back and have a phenomenal season. What then?
But what I'll even say though is that I really don't know if Michael Vick and DeSean Jackson are really going to bring numbers like that unless both of them do incredibly well, because a lot of people are fans of just them. There's some people that fall in love with HBCU football, and I think that Celebration Bowl is a cultural nexus point for that. But there's no proof to me, and I know I don't see everybody's numbers, but there's no proof to me that Michael Vick and DeSean Jackson significantly enough have moved the needle. When it was the coaching search, because people like the transactions of sports. So when we talked about Michael Vick, and I wrote about it when he was coming in, like that was big. But like, we got more people watching on YouTube because we talked about Jackson State. That's when folks came in and started watching. And Jackson State, they don't have a celebrity coach anymore. That's TC Taylor. Same thing with Prairie View. Same thing with South Carolina State. Like, and that's the thing. It's like when we look at the market of HBCU media, it's like it's crazy because I heard this so many times when I first really started getting inundated in the sports, more inundated in the sports space. I always cared about HBCU sports, but I came from the cultural side. I was such a sports fan, I was on the cultural side of it with the Instagram side. I came to the sports space in 2021 when we started. And my thing is that a lot of people were saying HBCU fans do not like football. They like the events. They like the halftime show. They don't like football. And I'm like, I don't know about that, but I think it's totally true. Because when we talk about this HBCU football stuff, it ain't a lot of people that's like, oh man, like I want to see Chennis Berry versus Tremaine Jackson. They're not saying that. That's us. And we're general sports fans. And it's like sports fans are in such a bubble because everybody don't like sports. And sometimes it feels odd to me because it's like sports is like dominates everything. But it's like when in HBCUs, these folks do not care. They only care about their school. They only care about their rivalry. But they don't care about what Tremaine Jackson's doing in the SWAC if they're somewhere on the East Coast. And that's what I want to change. And a part of it that was sort of frustrating as well is that I sort of came up with a solution. Because what I discovered is, okay, so we do the DeSean Jackson post, Arielle, right? So we do that post, it gets 5,000 likes. The Chennis Berry one gets 3,000. But the thing about it is the Tremaine Jackson post gets almost more than both of those posts combined because it's the story. Because a lot of people, because they don't like sports or they don't quote unquote care, but they love HBCUs, are then drawn to the broader story, which was Tremaine Jackson was a black man, a black coach that coached, let's be honest, this white school to a national championship. When everybody is debating, should we compete in the FCS playoffs or the what playoffs? They talk about it all the time in FCS Division II. He beat 2 HBCUs, then beat another white school and another white school and another white school, and was a black man who went to an HBCU, Texas Southern, that led that white school to the white national championship. Okay, then he goes and leads Prairie View to the black national championship. People are like, oh man, and then he sang about it. I should have put that video in. He sang about it. He turned it on Mega Sci-Fi him, and so he prayed him about how Atlanta is the land of purple and gold. People are like, yo, like man, he spoke into existence. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like that story got 8,000 people to like it and hundreds of thousands of people to interact with that post. I think the solution is telling the story in a way that people care about. But you never know what people are gonna see with these algorithms. And I think that that's the problem, because I want folks to care about what Chennis Berry is doing. But if they didn't go to South Carolina State or North Carolina Central or North Carolina A&T, where they saw what Chennis Berry was doing, what's their incentive for caring? And then the divisions, FCS Division II, there are Division II folks that go to HBCUs, that go to the HBCU concert, that probably went to North Carolina A&T's homecoming. All them people together, no cell service. They were there, okay? But they're not watching North Carolina A&T. They probably just watched the Celebration Bowl. Them folks don't know. So the question that I try to ask is, how do I get them to care? And to me, I think that that's the question that we have to ask ourselves, because that's what Clutch Points taught me. What Clutch Points taught me on the social media side especially is that how are we creating stories that people want to share, that people want to comment on? How are we creating this? And then I look at it from the standpoint of sports can get divisive. And we talk about people are losers and chokers and they're not clutch, or what people love saying, Arielle, they're soft, which I think that's an indictment, especially with men, how men's egos are set up. You calling me soft, that's an indictment of me as a man. Hell, that's an indictment of my dad. Because you're saying I'm soft, so that means my dad didn't raise me to be hard and grown and this masculine man. So that's a real big indictment of a grown man, especially a grown black man. So it gets divisive. Oh, you didn't win rings. So now I'm like, okay, I'm not saying Clutch Points does that, but I'm like, that's the sports space. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, how do I make this something that's more celebratory of HBCU life and makes people sort of still go up for it? And that sometimes that gets hard. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I think that maybe that's the solution. But I'll say this last thing, and I want to toss about you to close out if you have anything more to say, is that people got to tap in. And I'm not making this a plea for Black media, essentially. But if you love HBCUs, you got to support, because we trying to make money. And not just me, but these outlets are trying to make money. And in this media industry, we do not know how to make money at all. All we know is how to lose it. That's all we know is how to lose money. Okay? Like that's all. Like all we know is how to lose money. We don't know how to maintain it. Then we know how to shut it down if it's losing too much money. Oh, let's shut down Pulse. Let's just, it ain't making enough money, so we gonna subsidize that and move it to something else. Like that's all we know how to do. So my thing is that people gotta support, and not in charity, because you love HBCUs, and also you're invested in every level of it, even if it's not at a deep level. At a surface level, we'll let you know what's really going on. You know, I feel like that has to be the calling card for the consumer, because if they don't do that, you're going to see more Michael Vick posts. You're going to see more DeSean Jackson posts. If people are so mad that Randall put up DeSean Jackson before Chennis Berry, how dare he on his page? He got a login for it. He made in 2018. How dare he make a decision on his page? But like, if you don't want me to make that decision, how about you support the Chennis Berry post? How about you support when we talk about Bennett, or when we talk about Fisk and the gymnast, or we do all these other stories that are about HBCUs that don't get media attention? It has to be both ways. If I have to do better, and I got to be entertaining, I got to make folks laugh, I got to make folks care, could you reward me for doing that? So that's how I look at it. And also, I'll say that this last thing too is that I really, and I promise I'm gonna keep this in, I really can't stand the fakeness. I really can't. And I'm only saying this here. I can't stand the fakeness. I really can't. Because if people have an issue with anything with Pulse, stop putting it on Pulse and talk to me. But it's gonna look weird if you directing stuff at me or about Pulse and you not checking on Randall. How are you doing? How's it been the past 6 years? I'm human too, and it hurt. So I'm sorry if it sounds soft. I'm so soft. Whatever. It hurt. So I don't like that either. But that's a whole new conversation. But Arielle, any final thoughts?
I mean, no, you're right, and you know, I'm victim of it too, as I just said. Like, yes, he deserves every single recognition that he's going to get, but if it's not in journalism, if it's not what your audience wants, it's not what you're going to get. So the same practice that you're doing when we do speak about these coaches that are bringing us into a new light, you have to do the same as an audience member and telling us what you want to see, or interacting with, you know, sometimes the algorithm doesn't lie. You're going to see what you like the most. And if you're liking most our celebrity stuff and not our other media, which focuses on the excellence of Xavier, or the phenomenalism of Spelman, or the new gymnastic team at Fisk, what do you want me to do? Because that's not what you want to see. And that's what you're not going to see on your TL if you keep liking the posts that are making numbers. That I don't know what to tell you then, because I think we do our job. And I think we try to incorporate different history and try to play both sides of the field. I even corrected myself during this podcast. We did not talk about Prairie View, and they did an exceptional job. I'm going to give them their flowers. They definitely could have won that game just with one turn of history of one fumble. But what, you're not here for that. You don't want to hear that. You want to hear how South Carolina State is going to do against DeSean Jackson and Michael Vick, and what they're going to do next year against now this incomparable coach in his team. Like, I don't know what you want me to say or what you want me to do. Of course, we can always do more, and there's stuff that we're going to do better. Of course, we're going to grow our TikTok presence, and we're going to keep doing all the diversity posts, more of just diversity in HBCUs before anybody gets crazy. Diversity of HBCUs and what we post and their accomplishments and everything. But you still have to hold yourself accountable by loving the diversity and just not what we are doing, what we practice when we went to school for as journalists. I'm chasing a story. I'm not chasing a person. So if you want me to chase a culture, then you need to interact with that culture and not just what the algorithm is telling me what you really like. I think you should argue with your algorithm, not me. And every single episode we do say, come talk to us. I definitely say, come put me in the hot seat at the end of our recordings. And you say, come talk to me. So I don't know why this, like, you know, this secret behind the wall stuff, y'all doing this Wizard of Oz stuff, just come out. Just tell me. That's all you got. I put myself in this spotlight the same way that Chennis Berry put himself in the spotlight. The same way that I'm challenging him. Now that you want to be in that sector of wanting more questions, you got it. We're going to give it to you. And how I tell people to put me in the hot spot, because my opinions have been very hot the past 4 weeks towards the end. Then do it. You're not going to hurt my feelings, because that's what makes me better. That's what's going to help me do as a journalist, and that's what I'm here for. My opinion. Journalism is basically opinions that we're trying to prove to you that are fact, or some facts that we are sharing about our opinions that may intrigue you. Pick one, and we'll do it. But stop coming from my boy Randall. Speak up or don't speak at all. That's the end. That's the end of my take.
Well, I appreciate that. Listen, it's just more so the fact that, like, my phone be dry in general, and it's like people, like, it's just people gotta just look at it as this, like, we're doing. I feel like we're doing the work, but also we're people at the end of the day. And I'll end it like this: like, when it comes to the general, how like sort of like how I added the person to it when it came to me, with Chennis Berry, and looking at it from a general indictment of HBCU life, is Big Crit is my favorite rapper. He actually has a new album out. Big Crit's my favorite rapper. In the song Price of Fame, he said Justin Scott trapped this Big Crit screaming it's really me. Justin Scott's his real name. And what he's saying in so many words is that people see Big Crit, but they don't see Justin Scott. And that, like, is like the thing that's like, hey, like, he sort of talks about it and unpacks it within that song about how family asked him for money and, hey, he's going to a city, why he ain't check in. Like, he unpacks it in that song. I've always felt that. That came out 2017. I felt it at that point when I was at NASAP, where it's like people see at that time the 10,000 followers and not the person that cares, that love basketball, that might talk a little bit of S sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just like it's like that likes to joke, like, you know, loves black media. Like, they're not looking at that guy, looking at the guy that ain't posting their school. And it just gets a little bit crazy. And then people, including people from my school, are like, why you ain't posting whoopty whoop? Read the article, because I talk about it more there.
Read his amazing articles, because my boy is a peaceful giant. But in the words of our great singer Hallie, don't let this body frame fool you. If I wanted to fight, I would fight you. Don't make me go grab my ski mask and fight y'all for Randall, because I will.
Well, no, listen. Folks go to jail now. We grown. Okay, listen. Folks go to jail. We try to go to jail now.
Folks don't use enough hands. That's what's wrong. We missing the hands. It's wrong with this generation. Everybody want to pew pew. No, I want hands. Let's get back to laying hands. I'm ready for that. Only for you.
Okay, listen. I appreciate it. I'm not saying we're gonna fight nobody, because it's the 100th, like the 100th at North Carolina A&T homecoming. So I'm like, I don't want to be like, oh, so I heard what you said on that podcast.
And for everyone that's coming that isn't an Aggie, I need to see that diploma. I need to see that certificate that says your name, because the fact that the hotels in Greensboro are gone, y'all are suck, and the Airbnbs are almost out.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I'm going to be staying in Asheville just to travel to North Carolina, the school that I paid tuition, that I'm still paying back, that I have the plaque over there. Y'all taking up my space. That's crazy. Celebrate your own 100. This is ours. I'm trying to be Aggie down next year.
To close out, I want to just say that this is, so we both were right about the Celebration Bowl.
Don't nobody care about both of us being right.
You tried to get me, and I had regrets in that first half. I had some regrets. I really did. I was like, did I make the right decision? Because something in me was saying pick Prairie View, but that something in me was wrong. And I picked South Carolina State, and Chennis Berry did not let me down. He also allowed me with his comments to have time today and get a lot off my chest to the people that care, which is really just you. Like, just feel like it's really, they're gonna feel like, I don't care what you got to say about HBCU media.
I
You
care.
better get any picks. It's only you and I at this point. I guess Clutch was, I wrote the article. Like, so you like, and the two people that liked it on LinkedIn, one of them is like my boss for Clutch Points. I was like, okay, what you see, I'm working, sir. You know, like
This last article.
Yeah, yeah, because I'm trying to be more on LinkedIn. He actually liked it. Like I was okay, cool. Like, I don't know.
Was that the article I like, or was it the one before that one?
It was the one before that one I put on Celebration Bowl Day about the similarities between Chennis Berry and Tremaine Jackson. It was
yes.
Yeah. I saw y'all. I was like, oh yeah,
that was a good one because it was good. I said,
I appreciate
it. My boy is a writer. You want to be interesting? My boy is a writer. Talk about he's boring. This man ain't boring. He's interesting, and y'all would know more about sports if you read the article.
Yeah, it was like and I'll tell you, they'll never say Tremaine Jackson's not interesting. Tremaine Jackson be talking. If Tremaine Jackson said that, everybody be like, he's right. Because Tremaine Jackson dissed Brian Kelly. You read that in the article I put in the article? He dissed Brian Kelly. And he's like, they be all dancing in the videos.
I ain't really seen nothing that he said was wrong. I think we should start doing pre-reading before our podcast. Everybody go read the article so that way you up to date. If you're not reading the article, then you're not gonna know what we're talking about.
And I'm gonna let them know the article because I gotta let me pull up the exact article, because that one was I tried to come up with a witty title for that one. I believe is hey, why did I write all these articles? Oh my God.
Why did you put your LinkedIn?
You're right. You see, I'm not thinking, but
no,
see,
I listen, when you're focused, it always takes somebody outside.
the article is called Why Tremaine Jackson and Chennis Berry are running the same championship playbook. I tried to get a little bit fancier than that. I could not. But type that into Google. If you're watching this 5 years from now, type that into Google. Hopefully it does come up. I hope. Hopefully it's like, and then like, get that out of here. Like, get it out of here. Like, hopefully, hopefully not. So you finished. So in the picks, you finished 108-38. You were 1-0 because you picked South Carolina State. I finished 116-30, and I got the South Carolina State pick right. Next year, it's going to be really interesting. What I'm going to do next year is I'm going to try my best to calculate the HBCU matchups too, because I feel like it's easy to get like the money games. Like, oh, well, I believe Arkansas is going to beat UAPB. Like, it's like, that's easy. Yeah. But like, we going to start calculating like the actual HBCU matchups. But I think that will still fare well. So you have any thoughts about our final records? And I was getting the Celebration Bowl pick right.
That game doesn't mean anything to me because of my record. I didn't win like Chennis Berry. I'm upset. I was so close. But you know what, Team Ari, we did good this year. This is actually a better record than last year. And I'm very proud. I'm super proud. But I would be even prouder if we flipped. You know, but you know what? There's always next year.
I want to say this last thing too. And I want to get your feedback on it as someone that's actually gone to the Celebration Bowl, and then we'll be done. So on Saturday, and I wrote an article on this one as well, and I'll tell the title in a second, but a lot of people were like, oh, well, the Celebration Bowl, it's not going to be a lot of people there because it's two schools that people don't know about. And a lot of people were like, well, if Jackson State was there, we'd pack it out. And it was literally a coordinated attack by HBCU people to say that no one was at the Celebration Bowl. Then the final numbers came out, and it was over 26,000 people. And the TV number came out, and it was 2.4 million. It was the most watched since 2022. That was the Deion Sanders one that North Carolina Central won, and it peaked at 3 million, which probably was around that time of that fourth quarter, 4 overtimes. And I just want to say this, and I wrote about it because I didn't share this one on my LinkedIn because I want to keep this in the family because I want to have people be like, oh no, they this is because it was insane. People were at these takes, but I think it was HBCU fans care way too much about game attendance. My take is that we are very defeatist when it comes to HBCU life because we're prideful in our specific HBCU, and we don't understand the damage that causes to our institutions. And the Celebration Bowl within itself is becoming an institution, and it is something that pays the SWAC and the MEAC millions of dollars plus sponsor integration. You added in the band of the year, which I have my thoughts on, but you add in the band of the year to showcase band life. And it is becoming such a huge part of the HBCU calendar, and it's giving the FCS schools something to aspire towards. A lot of people, because I know we didn't get a chance to talk about 2023 towards the end. It was a big debate over if the Celebration Bowl or the FCS playoffs was more valuable. And my argument was always the Celebration Bowl pays money. And we had the dude who I think it was Richmond. The coach from Richmond was putting over the Celebration Bowl, saying, "Yeah, like we love to have a bowl game." And people were still like, "No, the FCS playoffs when people are losing money, like these Division II programs that do the D2 playoffs lose money. Like if there was a Celebration Bowl in Division II in the same way, like a lot of schools would opt for that, and they tried to do the Florida Beach Bowl. A lot of schools would opt for that for the money. So I just think that it's very defeatist to talk about the Celebration Bowl in that way. I think that 26,000 people is substantial. And I think it's such an archaic way to look at things because what I explained in the article more in depth, because I'm trying to be quick here, is that back in the day, Arielle, and I'm pretty sure you've heard this before, BET had these HBCU games on tape delay. And the reason why was like, oh, we don't want to take away from the attendance. We don't want to give anybody a free ticket. When it's like, that's stupid. Because it's like you can only have so many people that are in the arena wherever you are. You could have literally hundreds of thousands to millions of people that are watching from home that possibly could not have made it, and that's another money stream. But I understand it if you're talking about the 80s and the 90s because the media deals are not as plentiful. Even if we criticize the media deals that the SWAC and MEAC have, it's not as plentiful as it is for the Celebration Bowl now. But it was stupid back then. But to quibble and argue about the Celebration Bowl and the attendance and this school is going to bring more, we should be at a point where the Celebration Bowl is going to bring 26,000 people, regardless of whoever goes. If someone thinks that Mississippi Valley don't got no pool, and let's say they in it, or if someone thinks that Delaware State don't got no pool, and DeSean Jackson leaves, let's say they in it, it should still have a baseline of 26,000. In my opinion. So as someone that has not gone to the Celebration Bowl, I felt as if their opinions were asinine and they were deliberately attacking a game that got 26,000 people. I don't know if 26,000 people is a low number. It is not low to me, but you've been to the Celebration Bowl. Before we go, what do you think? Is it a low number?
I would say in this new stadium, it may look sparse, but that's still a lot of people. Like there's always, to me, first of all, a stadium, a Mercedes-Benz, an Atlanta stadium, a sports stadium that has the lowest concessions possible, to me, I think has one of the greatest views. Like, I don't think people really think about when you build a stadium, like how, if I'm a person, a spectator viewing this sport, regardless of what seat I got, is it still a good seat? It was still a great seat looking in that stadium. So it doesn't matter where you sit, cheapest concessions. The tickets for the Celebration Bowl, despite if they're running low, are surprisingly cheap. Surprisingly cheap. I think the highest ticket may go for like $120. That's the highest ticket. The cheapest ticket is like $30. from the last time I went. Like, that's not bad. And then fourth reason, it's Atlanta. You gonna find something to do. You with Clark, like Mercedes-Benz is literally adjacent to Clark, Atlanta, which is connected to Spelman, which literally you can walk across the yard of Spelman and get to Morehouse. So you already have people that you can go party with. You buy JR Crickets, you got some good food. You buy Magic City up the street. Like, there's nothing, you can't tell me that there's no entertainment, because we found entertainment after going to the Celebration Bowl. You can't tell me that the Celebration Bowl in Atlanta isn't lucrative, but also isn't a good time, but also isn't going to bring people. Because the people that do attend the Celebration Bowl isn't just people from those schools, because all those schools do not have 26,000 students. I could say that confidently, you not hitting on my A&T. You not. Y'all are just not there as students. There are other people that are in Atlanta, or alumni that live in Atlanta, or alumni that are coming from different. 26,000 people in that Mercedes-Benz stadium is a lot. This new stadium for HBCUs is a lot. I feel like if we were in the Georgia Dome, then 26 probably would have covered more than half, or at half of this of the Georgia Dome. But Mercedes-Benz Stadium having 26,000 people for an HBCU game, that's great. To me, that's not light work to do. That means people really care, and they want to see these young men on a stage that, as a team, is very special. There are HBCU games that aren't broadcasted on ABC at noon for 4 overtimes and don't lose broadcasting, don't lose coverage. They don't cut to another game. This is special for those boys. So I agree with you. The fact that you want to bicker about attendance and not about literally how special this is for people that need to be looked at if they want to go into the draft, if they want to declare, or how hard they work to get here, or in one of the biggest cities in the world that has so many connections, or the fact that you're in one of the cheapest games. You're not finna find an NFL game like that. You're not even finna find an Alabama, UGA, Oregon game as low as $30. What are you talking about? What are we talking about here? We're talking about the wrong things. So that's a lot. I can't tell you from when I went. It was probably a low number, because the first time I went was, I think this was A&T's second time winning it. Like, it was a back-to-back, or this was their third. No, it has to be their second. Their third was my junior year before we left. But that second year, that stadium to me looked full. It like, there was a lot of, because we were in the nosebleeds. You could not get in the first 2 tiers of that stadium. It was packed. I was in the nosebleeds, and I still had a good view. It was so great. It was so amazing. Then the next year I was a little bit lower, but like, it was still a good amount. Now it's the second year, because it's like, oh, dog, they did it twice. Third year, you're kind of like, I like it here. I'm just here for support. But like, I think worrying about attendance is crazy, and 26,000 people to me is a lot. And if I would have known this was the type of show that they were going to put on, I would have loved for us to go. I would be like, Randall, I will pay the ticket. Just meet me there. This is going to be great. You have to experience the Celebration Bowl for yourself, because it's absolutely amazing. I just think, and I think I'm on the other side of the spectrum. I think there are people, especially HBCU people, that love the experience of the HBCU, love to experience the culture, love to experience the band, Black culture in a sense, Black vernacular, learn about Black history, just being Black. But then once you get outside of that and you get into the real world, it's just an experience. It's no longer a culture, because once it turns into a culture, you keep it going. It turns into traditions. It turns into cycles. It turns into things that we do every year, like homecoming. Some people are just going for the experience. I have my HBCU experience. I'm here. And they leave the support. That's the difference between us and PWIs. PWIs create a culture within the experience that keeps them coming back. HBCUs are still trying to build that culture within the experience that you want to keep, that makes you give back. We're still just experiencing. And I think that's a historical setback from all the years that we have been stagnant, but also because we don't believe that we can be more than just an experience. We could really be a revolution. So it's one of those things. HBCU sports and everything is just not an experience. It's a culture. In order to keep that culture alive, you have to keep giving back and maintaining. If you want to complain about the attendance, that means you're just experiencing stuff. You're not trying to help us maintain the culture. If you want to help us maintain, start buying other people's tickets. They're cheap. Bring the attendance up. That's all I got to say. Because for the fact that I gave you 4 overtimes and a 21 point comeback, come on now. You're not going to tell me that's worth more than, but nobody knows how the game is going to go, but that's worth more to me than 26 out of 10. I bet you if it was like a rivalry, kind of like if teams could play each other out of the same conference, like if we had Alabama State and Jackson State playing in the Celebration Bowl, I believe it would have been super large. Or if we had Central and A&T, or maybe Southern and Jackson State, or if we had who's Tuskegee rival? If we did something like that, I think rivalry games, if we ever could play within the same conference and rivalry games could play in the Celebration Bowl, I feel like there would be, because we want drama. Black people love drama. They do. But like you heard in the press conference, Chennis Berry talking, yep. Black people love them. But you got to do it. You got to do it at the same time. So those are people that are just experiencing. You don't want to keep the culture in because you're complaining about why it was so low. Why didn't you invite one of your friends and pay for that $30 ticket?
That's true. And what I will say is this too as well, is that I think what John Grant, who is over the Celebration Bowl, he does it in partnership with ESPN Events. I think it's an amazing opportunity for HBCUs. And I think it's a cultural nexus point, because I think that especially after a game like this, a lot of people might be more inclined to see what Tremaine Jackson and Chennis Berry do. And I think that grows the sport. Now, I do think that and I've not been to a Celebration Bowl. I actually went last year. I went to the Mercedes-Benz for the Division I high school championship when Northeast played Toombs County. I went to Mercedes-Benz. I think it was the week of the Celebration Bowl. I actually saw the celebration. I think it was after. I saw the Celebration Bowl sign, and I took a picture of it. It was like outside. So I was at Mercedes-Benz, but not the Celebration Bowl. But I think that there are some improvements that need to be made. I do agree that I would like to see the Celebration Bowl more integrated into Atlanta and Georgia culture, similar to what the Bayou Classic is and Magic City Classic. I think that there needs to be more of a push, if there's not, more of a push to get non-HBCU attendees that not necessarily are the adults. Adults can come, but I think that this is a great way to get young kids like middle school, high school to be inundated in HBCU life, because they get a chance to see HBCU football on this grander level, and also the pageantry of HBCU life on this grander level. I look at when I was a kid, I went to the Fountain City Classic, and when you're a young man and you see college girls, like it's like the cartoon Hard Eyes, and it's like I can't wait to go to college, and it's like I wouldn't, it wasn't nothing there, but it's like Hard Eyes, you know what I mean? So it's like that's like what that is for me to intellectualize it. What that was for me when I go, because we're still on Albany State side. Albany State, they got pressure, but anyway, Albany State got pressure. But like we on that side, and I see Albany State people, and I'm like, oh my gosh, look at these women. What that is a cultural nexus point of me now romanticizing the college experience. So now I remember that moment where I went to the Fountain City Classic, and that memorable moment where I saw these college girls I thought were attractive. Now that might make me want to go to an HBCU. It could be just as simple as that. I think that is important. If they do that, listen, power to them. But I think that that's something they need to do. I think promotion can be better. I think that they can work HBCU media better. I think that is great that they tap in with HBCU Game Day. Game Day, they're the number one in the space. I don't doubt that. They number one. But they can go on to other platforms. And shout out to Josh and all of them at HBCU Nightly. John Grant goes over there. But I think that he can, work his way around. And I feel like people shouldn't have to reach out. It should be like, let's go on Pulse. Let's go on this place. Let's go on that place. Let's go on Ricky Smiley. Can we get rid of Ricky Smiley? Let's go to the Breakfast Club, because they have it in Atlanta, and we know Envy went with Hampton, and you know what I'm saying. So it's like I feel like there needs to be more of a concerted PR push, to make this feel bigger than it is, because 26,000 now without what I would consider a PR push is amazing. But imagine if we were able to really do the legwork, and now that can grow more. Because I know the PR push ain't happening. I would give, like, if the high school push is happening, cool. That PR push ain't happening, because I ain't never got an email from the White Celebration Bowl. And you're not that important, Randall. Yes, we are.
You wouldn't, it's more like it's a niche thing, and it's also if your school is going. Because like you won't get that email if your school is in there, but you also won't get that email if you're not subscribed to like events like that. So like
Fort Valley is never gonna be there because we're Division II. So it's like, because like for me, it's like I get so many pitches, and it's like a lot of them aren't HBCU pitches. Like it's like pitches for like dentists and stuff like that. It's like I'm not gonna interview you unless like did you go to an HBCU? Like I'm not gonna waste my time. But like, why don't I see a Celebration Bowl pitch? Because I've gotten pitches for MEAC SWAC Challenge, which is also from the same people, which is that's sort of weird. But I've gotten MEAC SWAC Challenge pitches, but never for the Celebration Bowl. That's weird. I've gotten Bayou Classic pitches, and this is to my Clutch Points email and my HBCU Post email, like my regular HBCU Post email and the Clutch Points email that is listed on these different websites as like the journalist whatever thing. I get those. I got pitches for Magic City. I got one this year for sure. I've never gotten a pitch for the Celebration Bowl or Band of the Year. I just think that's hustling backwards, because I believe if I didn't get a pitch and I know that my email is listed on these registries as, hey, he covers HBCU sports, I know there's other people not getting pitches, but they're going to people that they're tight with, and I'm fine with that, because start there. That's the foundation, but you got to build out. But at the same time, like I say, what I say in the article is that there's not really a problem with the viewership nor the attendance within itself. It was an invented problem to make a point that Jackson State would have had it filled up. And it's like, I'm saying what can improve and what I'm not liking, but it's like John Grant don't got any incentive to be like, it's not working. You know what I'm saying? Like he could be like, oh, I talk to you, Randall. Like we got 3 million views, peak views. I don't got to talk to you. And you're right. He right. Like you got to talk to me. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's just stuff that could be better. But I just think in conclusion that people are making things a problem when it ain't a problem. And I think that that's more so my thing, but I go more in depth with it in my article. What is it called? let me pull it up again.
You gotta have these things ready.
It's here. Okay. HBCU fans care way too much about game attendance by Randall Barnes. Okay. You can type it in on Google and it'll show up 5 years from now, hopefully. Okay. If you don't listen to this in time, hopefully you read it. Okay. Like go to the Wayback Machine. It'll be there. I'll put it on there. Wayback Machine. That's the hack. Wayback Machine. They can't stop at that time. Okay, can't stop Wayback Machine. Okay, it's like a time machine. Anyway, Arielle, this is our longest show that we've ever done. I think this is really fun. Where can we find you on social media?
You can find me on Instagram at Arielle.onrecord, play on the journalism. Put me in the hot seat. Stop bullying my co-host on X, formerly known as Twitter, at AskRiri, which is RIRI__. Or you can ask me questions on my website at ariellekilgore.my.canva.com.